The summer movie season. Whether it's unsafe to go in the water, you know what I'm talking about. Aliens invading Earth maliciously, particularly the White House, or even a mushroom cloud out in the middle of the desert, which is the product of a scientific genius. Man, are we ever going to get Barbenheimer, that lightning in a bottle, once again? I don't know if we'll do it this summer, but I'm going to tell you the movies that I am most anticipating for the summer of 2025. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you, of course. Now, quickly, before I get into the topic of today's video, which I'm assuming is why you clicked on this, it wasn't my beautiful face on the thumbnail, although I probably didn't put that on the thumbnail. I've had an eye infection for the last week, so if I start crying profusely during this video, it's not because of the emotions that I'm feeling based on my picks. Also, the Coke bottles may come out on occasion, and I'm going to bring them out right now as we get into what we're doing tonight. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to do a ranking, a countdown. I'm going to give you my top 10 movies that I am most anticipating for the summer movie season this year, 2025. I did my most anticipated movies of the year back in early January, and some of those movies may cross over with this list. To be honest with you, I don't even remember what the hell I put on that list, although I was anticipating some of these even as early as this time last year, so there probably is crossover. I don't know. Also, as we go through it, I will tell you if I think any of the movies that I'm mentioning on tonight's top 10, if they have awards potential. There are a couple of those in the mix also. If you saw my early Oscars predictions video that I did, way too early, by the way, you may recognize some of those titles as well. Let's get into it. I'm going to start with 5 honorable mentions, as I usually do. And for the dates, I did anything from May 1st, which is right around the corner as I'm recording. It's like 4 or 5 days from now. So anything from May 1st until Labor Day weekend. Any movies that are being released nationwide in theaters. I'm not doing streaming. What's that dickhead's name from Netflix that did the thing about the movie thing with the thing and the movie season's dead or whatever? Come on, man. So in short, let's get out to the movies to support these titles. Let's get into it with my honorable mentions to get us started. Could possibly ruin all my street cred with the very first movie I'm going to list here. But I'm going to start with, in honorable mentions, Freakier Friday. Of course, the sequel to Freaky Friday, starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. 2 absolute divine legends among us in Hollywood. Now look, this is a guilty pleasure, no doubt. Comes out on August 8th, and I am beyond excited for it because I freaking love the first one. Probably a little too much for a 49-year-old male. How about one that's coming up on us pretty quickly? It's being released in just a few weeks. Final Destination Bloodlines. It comes out May 16th. There's going to be a lot of horror on this list, and this is the first mention, as I am super pumped as I love this franchise. Another horror right here in the honorable mentions. I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I'm not talking about a re-release of the classic. I'm talking about a reimagining or a remake. I was a little thrown off by the trailer, although I did enjoy it, but I feel like it's essentially the exact same story in the future, with Freddie Prinze and Jennifer Love Hewitt reprising their roles, and basically this new group of kids is going through the same thing that they went through. How many people are getting run over in this town? Like, where are the traffic cops? Clown in a Cornfield. This is a movie that has premiered at some film festivals, and some friends of mine have seen it, which heightened my interest in this movie, because you would think a B movie about a clown standing in a cornfield is going to be, a to-be original, and it's not going to be anything revolutionary. But some of the reviews that I've read say that it really starts that way and uses a lot of those popular tropes to create something very mind-boggling and thought-provoking, which the title does not match what that it would end up being if that's the case. Eli Craig is the director here, and I am excited as hell to see Clown in a Cornfield. And then the last honorable mention that I'll throw at you comes out on June 27th of this year, and it's also the first one that I've mentioned that I think could have awards potential, and that's F1, directed by Joseph Kosinski, starring Brad Pitt, in a movie about F1 Formula Racing, Indy cars, and it looks to be basically Top Gun Maverick in race cars. So, yes, yes, I'll be there. In terms of Oscar potential, I don't know if we're looking at a Maverick situation with the best picture and the top of the line stuff, but I do think you could pretty easily be looking at stuff like best sound and best editing, perhaps song or score if that stuff's in the mix when it comes time to whittle through the options. It's a shame that new stunt category won't be eligible this year, because not only do we have this one from Kosinski, but we have a couple pretty big action blockbusters that are probably going to be pretty large stunt spectacles. And of course, that award's not going to be around yet. So Who the hell cares? I'm kidding. I care. I love our stunt people. All right, now let's get into the countdown proper, starting out with my number 10, which is the basic bitch pick, but I'm putting it all the way down here at number 10, which, by the way, I just looked at my earlier 2025 most anticipated that I told you I did back in January, and it was also my number 10 back then, so it has not moved, and there might be a couple of reasons for that, but it's James Gunn's Superman, of course, which also could arguably be the most important release this summer, not just for Warner Brothers and DC, but for movies and for cinema. Can it get to Barbie or Oppenheimer level numbers again, or even Top Gun Maverick that I talked about earlier? I don't know, but I do trust in James Gunn, and I think if anybody can do it in that superhero realm, it is probably him. But, I'm always going to be excited on some level for a Batman or a Superman adaptation. Typically, the DC stuff in the last 10 to 15 years, I love Ben Affleck, but the whole Batfleck era was not my thing. I just didn't like that dark, brooding, macabre kind of pivot that we got in the DC EU. So my point is, I don't know if maybe we're coming back around a little bit. This one doesn't seem to be as dark, maybe a little more fun. I do love the casting of David Cornsweet. The first trailer that I saw that came out a couple months ago, I actually did a reaction on the channel here. I was thrilled. I thought it looked great. The action sequences that they decided to show in that trailer with the slow motion shot of him saving the little girl there with the building exploding or whatever. Just beautiful, beautiful imagery, especially if you're talking about comic book superhero adaptation. When it comes to being at my number 10, I think that that's a bias that I have to accept, and that frankly you guys will have to accept if you're a huge MCU or DCU fan, because I'm just kind of over these movies. I'm going to see Thunderbolts in a few days, and I want to be excited for that, but I'm just not really. I'm hopeful that it'll be good. It has a lot of actors that I really like in it, but I don't have that excitement previewing like I used to back in the old days. By the way, that one's being released wide on July 11th, and in terms of Oscar chances, I would say no typically, but it is going to depend on the reception and the box office for the movie. So assuming that stuff is very positive and is well received, then I could see something like visual effects perhaps in the mix. So stay tuned. We'll see. Again, stunts is not in the mix this year, but that would have also been an option. The only thing I could see realistically right here at this point without seeing how it's going to be accepted wide is visual effects. So it's a minor possibility at this point. Skipping ahead to August for my number 9, and also going to get back into some more horror picks for the next few. This one is a movie from newcomer filmmaker Michael Shanks, and it is being described as a body horror romance, and that's called Together. We did get a trailer for this one recently, which I watched, and I loved the trailer because, well, let me put it this way, I loved it and I hated it for the same reason. It didn't really show us anything. Now, the tagline on IMDb and Letterboxd says, with a move to the countryside, already testing the limits of a couple's relationship, a supernatural encounter begins an extreme transformation of their love, lives, and flesh. It stars Dave Franco and Allison Brie as that couple that's in love, kind of like newlyweds that moved out to the country. And there's something going on with dogs in the movie or animals. I don't know if dog is just a representation, but there's definitely something going on with wildlife, maybe infecting them, or I don't know. Some people have seen it because it has had some film festival showings. I'm not one of those people, so I'm still in the dark, which that's another reason why I love it and I hate it in terms of the marketing, because I just don't really know what this is, but that also enhances the excitement for me. I love the marketing. I love how it's kind of keeping it under wraps, and even the people that have seen it are extremely generic in their reviews, which I appreciate, is very spoiler free so far, and it just looks fucking wild, and it looks like it's a little bit elevated in terms of the storytelling too. I love body horror, and I love when it's shocking, especially coming off the success of something like The Substance. Allison Brie is amazing. Dave Franco's great. Let's do it. I'm excited for this one. So if you haven't heard of it, check out the trailer, which is available on YouTube also, but it's called Together, and it is going to be released on August 1st. No awards potential for this one, I fear. So Together was on August 1st. A week later, on August 8th, so horror fans, especially indie horror fans, are going to be eating in August. No crumbs will be left behind by us horror guys and girlies, because on August 8th is when my number 8 will be coming out, and it's a film from Zach Kreger called Weapons. This is another movie that we literally just got I won't even call it a fucking trailer. It was like a 30-second teaser in the greatest sense, because it showed literally nothing except these children running through the streets of their neighborhood at nighttime. And Josh Brolin, who's in the movie, is giving a bit of narration over the trailer or teaser, And he's just kind of talking about, I don't know if he's a detective or if he's one of the parents, but essentially what I'm gathering from everything that's been released so far is that there's a small town neighborhood where like a large group of young children, like middle school or high school age, just disappear all on the same night. And the footage from that night, from Ring camera, doorbells, and all that shit, shows them just leaving their home voluntarily and kind of like weirdly running down the street. That's all we have so far. I probably played a clip or two over this commentary for you, and that's essentially all we got. The letterbox description says an interrelated multi-story horror epic that revolves around the disappearance of high schoolers in a small town. And like I said, the title is Weapons, which also confuses me a little bit, but I love that shit. Just like I said with Together. Also, one-word titles are doing their thing. I can see. Josh Brolin, as I mentioned, Julia Garner, Alden Ehrenreich, oh my god, I love him. June Diane Raphael, Benedict Wong, a great, great cast, and Zach Kreger, who, by the way, directed a couple years ago Barbarian with Bill Skarsgård, which was a tremendous indie horror film also. So we'll see what he does with Weapons. And since I've seen that teaser and some of the marketing shit they released a couple weeks ago, it shot up big time for me as a horror guy. I can't wait to see this one. It's my number 8. Now, you would think this summer, with all these horror movies that I'm mentioning, that's one of them would come out on Friday the 13th, which we're getting this year. It doesn't always happen on the calendar. And there's literally no nationwide release that's considered horror on the movie calendar, which is crazy to me. I don't know what we're doing in Hollywood. I don't get it. But what is coming out on Friday, June 13th, is the new Celine Song film called Materialists, and that falls here at my number 7. You know, I initially had this in my top like 50 when I did that On the Radar video back in early March, right after the Oscars had aired, for movies to look out for this upcoming award season, and this one was on there, but I'm starting to think more and more that it's probably not going to be an awards player, although if it does lean a little heavier into the romance and the drama part of the kind of love triangle that we're apparently going to get in this movie, then that would be a little more Past Lives-ish, which of course Celine Song had great success with that, not just at the Oscars, but in award season in general. However, it does appear to be a little bit more on the romantic comedy side, and like I said, kind of a Three's Company type vibe that I'm getting from it. Plus you have 2 actors, at least, really you could say all 3, but Chris Evans and Dakota Johnson just don't have a lot of success with the Academy in their careers, but that could also have a lot to do with the choices they've been making. And then you have Pedro Pascal as the 3rd lead in this film, or co-lead. So I'm excited to see it. I love Celine Song, and Past Lives is one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years. So I think if we get a little bit of that, and maybe it's a little bit funnier, then we're going to get a nice recipe of something very unique here. And you know the filmmaking is going to be top level from Celine Song. Materialists. I love Dakota Johnson, by the way. Man. Now, in fairness, I'll just say before I move on to my next pick, Dakota, my girl, could have gotten some nominations, whether it's supporting or whatever, for some roles that she's done in the past, and it just didn't materialize for her. See what I did there? Oh my god, it's called Materialists. All right, now my number 6, we're going to have to wait all the way till the end of August, right before the cutoff for this countdown, actually, the last weekend in August, a film called Caught Stealing, which is from filmmaker Darren Aronofsky. And that's my number 6. It's also the first film that I've mentioned on this entire video that I think is like a huge Oscars player, I think. I'm currently got this one in my top 10 for Best Picture. I've got Aronofsky in the mix for screenplay and director. And I've got Austin Butler in the lead actor conversation for his role in this movie right now. Not to mention whatever text we might get from it once I'm able to put my eyeballs on this thing. I wouldn't count out even some supporting possibilities from the likes of Zoe Kravitz or Regina King, who are both in this movie. Matt Smith, Liev Schreiber. There's a lot of people in this movie that could get awards notoriety this season. But Caught Stealing is also going to have a tie-in with baseball, and I'm a huge baseball fan. But Austin Butler plays a character named Hank, and it says he's a burnt-out former baseball player, and he's unwittingly plunged into a wild fight for survival in the downtown criminal underworld of 1990s New York City. Sounds like a perfect setting. Sounds like it's going to be a bit of a crime thriller, and you know Butler is going to sink his teeth into this role. Aronofsky, watch out for Butler, because at a minimum, he has a great track record for getting his lead acting performances nominated. Most recently, Brendan Fraser, who was a darling during award season for The Whale, Natalie Portman for Black Swan, Mickey Rourke for The Wrestler. I mean, there's a lot of examples of actors receiving nominations, and in some cases wins. So I think Caught Stealing will definitely be in the conversation, but I am thrilled regardless to see this movie because I love his films and he just is a fearless filmmaker. It sits at my number 6. We're going to get super campy as we get into my top 5 here. My number 5 is going to be Megan 2.0. Holy shit, guys. I'll tag it for you on this video. I did a trailer reaction for this trailer when it came out about a month ago, and I am so thrilled to see this movie. So what they've done with the premise for Megan 2.0, as far as I can tell, is that killer, kind of vengeful, malicious robot or AI from the first one, Megan, has now been reprogrammed or brought back to life to be more of a ally and hero, which is what she ends up being in this film. So a la Terminator versus T2. I mean, it's kind of a similar kind of setup, which T2 is one of the greatest sequels ever made. I'm not saying Megan 2.0 will be on that level, but nonetheless, I do love that kind of twist on the narrative, but yet we still get this great character in this AI-driven, kind of like foul-mouthed, snarky teenager that we get with Megan. My number 4 is another film in the horror genre, but it's also one of the more that has like blockbuster potential. It's going to be a mass audience going to this thing, not just us horror nerds. It's Danny Boyle's return to this franchise, and that's 28 years later. It's the first film in this 28 franchise that we've gotten since 2007. So it's been 18 years since we got an entry, and it's been 23 years since Danny Boyle put his stamp on this franchise and kind of started us off the ground back with Cillian Murphy all the way in 2002 with 28 Days Later. And this film could take on a bit more heft and kind of importance in its storytelling this time around, because obviously we're in a post-COVID era, the pandemic, and this is obviously an infected virus type of horror film, and it's been building for, well, obviously 28 years, as the title would tell you. The trailer looks phenomenal. Absolutely blew me away. And actually, the first time I saw that trailer, which happens rarely because I usually watch them on YouTube like when they come out, this trailer, I saw it, I can't remember what movie it was, but I saw it on the big screen the first time, and I was like, oh my God. When? Yeah, please. Looks great. Aaron Taylor Johnson taking over that kind of like lead character role, and he's awesome, especially like in action stuff. The whole Craven thing, Hunter aside of it, whatever. But I mean, generally speaking, he was actually really good in that too, let's be honest. And he had his shirt off, so that helps. We also got Jodie Comer, Jack O'Connell, Ray Fiennes is in this version. I don't think he popped up in the trailer, I don't think, but I saw his name on the cast list and that got me really excited. I don't know if he's the Pope, maybe. I don't think so, but he's in it, so I'm excited about that. Give this to me now. Infect me, if you will. See what I did there? All right, now we're getting to the entry where we're going to go to the movies. If we're film fans, if we're cinephiles, we're going to go on this day or this weekend, and we're going to leave, and we're going to immediately tweet or text to some of our friends or whatever, we're so back. That's what we're going to do with this one for sure. No matter, we won't do anything else. We don't overuse that statement at all. So that'll be the first time we use it. But it'll be for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which is my number 3. It's being released on May 23rd. What the hell can I say, guys? The last installment, I believe the 7th, I think. How many fucking things is this? 8? 7 or 8? What is this? This is 8, I think. Oh my God. Nonetheless, it is the ending to quite possibly the greatest action franchise. That is, if you're talking about in terms of consistency. Now, some people will throw out the James Bond franchise, which has been going on for like 50 years. I don't know that that's a fair comparison. I'm talking about more like, 7 or 8 movies, or even if you like extend it a little bit more to like the Fast and the Furious and like whatever. This is the action franchise for me. And honestly, Tom Cruise is the reason. I mean, the guy is a goddamn master. He's also a psychotic madman, and he loves movies. As I'm recording this video, I just saw today that he posted a picture of himself at the theater seeing Sinners, which is one of the biggest hits going on right now as I'm recording, and urging people to go see it. And believe me, he does that all the fucking time. This guy loves movies. He is championing the movie theater going experience. And what an ambassador to have. He's going to be at Cannes when this thing premieres in a couple weeks. And then like a week after that, the general public's going to get it, which will be me because I'm not going to Cannes this year. Although when I saw that, I thought about it. My runner-up is another movie that I think has a pretty stout award chances. And that's Mike Flanagan's movie, The Life of Chuck. That's my runner-up. Stars Tom Hiddleston, Matthew Lillard, Mark Hamill, David Dalsmachian, Kate Siegel, of course, who always works with Flanagan. A huge cast. So you could be looking at a best casting situation for this movie. I want you to keep that in your purview because that's obviously a new award this year. We don't really know what to expect with that award. Will it be just Best Picture 2.0 or like editing 2.0? I mean, I don't know. Or is it going to be movies that aren't nominated for Best Picture, or maybe it's a mix of both? But I think The Life of Chuck, just based on the cast I just mentioned to you and how well they apparently work together kind of seamlessly in this film with these intertwining stories, is definitely something to keep front of mind for that new award. But this sounds like a self-reflection drama film. Very existential, very emotional, tear-jerker, perhaps emotionally manipulative is what I've read from some reviews. It has been screened at several film festivals like in the last year. So a lot of people have seen it all the way back to like last summer. But seeing Flanagan, who I love from the horror genre, take on a completely different genre that he obviously loves and respects makes me super excited. It's like when an actor who is known for comedy decides to take on a dramatic role. I mean, it's a very similar kind of thing for me when I'm looking at the direction of the film. So I have been thrilled and over the moon to see The Life of Chuck for a while now. And this one will be coming out on June 6th. When it comes to Oscar chances, like I said, I think it is in the mix for Best Casting. I don't have it in my 10 right now, but I think it is at a minimum a possibility for things like director, screenplay, and picture also. Obviously, we would be looking at adapted screenplay, which sometimes is a bit of a softer category than original. So it is possible for Flanagan there. Mark Hamill could also be a huge supporting actor player this year. And with his kind of lineage in Hollywood, if nothing else from the Star Wars franchise as Luke Skywalker, that would be a big deal, I think, for the Oscars too, to get that representation in their top tier, top of the line nominees. So they might have that in the back of their head also. But I think Life of Chuck, at a minimum, is going to be in the conversation until it kind of fizzles out or until it happens. So be on the lookout for that one. So as I get to my number one, earlier in this countdown, I think it was like number 8, number 7, those two, both had teasers come out. It was Together, the movie Together, and the movie Weapons from Kreger. That I talked about the teasers and how it didn't really give us anything plot-wise, but it intrigued us enough based on the visuals that we saw or whatever minimal part of the story that was relayed to us visually. That was done in spades with my number one, and then you multiply that by one of the most exciting filmmakers and storytellers in general, screenwriters, period, in Hollywood right now, if not ever, in my opinion, in Ari Aster. My number one is Eddington. Holy shit. This was in my top 10 when I did for the year, but it's my number one now because of that teaser. It's going to Cannes, which is a big deal when you're talking about awards potential. I do think this is going to be in the mix, or at least I should say I hope it is. Now, if it falls farther on the spectrum towards Beau is Afraid, then it's probably not going to be. But if he can bring that dial back a little bit, maybe incorporate some of that weird anxiety-ridden shit, but bring it down a little more grounded, real-world type narrative, then maybe. But Ari Aster is one of those guys that one of these days he's got to be recognized. He's so good at the craft of filmmaking and that eye that you have to have as a filmmaker to kind of like tell your story and make it different and unique. You think of the greats, and they all kind of stand alone as their own thing. Tarantino, for example, that if he does it, it looks like a Tarantino movie. Nobody else. There's replicas, of course. People are gonna borrow and try to steal, and he's done that, frankly, from other parts of the world cinema that he's a fan of. But when you see a Tarantino film, almost instantly, okay, well, that's a Tarantino film, or at least you suspect it. Same thing for like David Fincher. I would argue same thing for like a Coralie Farja from The Substance, because the couple movies she has on her list, I can see a visual style now. And the same thing can be said for a lot of filmmakers that are working in the horror genre today or in the genre-based filmmaking. Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, Robert Eggers, I mentioned Coralie, those types of filmmakers have that visual knack to stand out in a group of hundreds. And they do, and Ari Aster does. And this film also plays a little bit with that COVID storyline. It takes place in 2020. It's obviously going to have, whether it's a hammer you over the head or whether it's very subtle, it's going to have a political message to it, because it's going to be people that are for the vaccine, people that are against it. The teaser mentioned guns, so there's probably going to be people for gun control and people against it. It's going to be divisive in that way, because depending on what your beliefs are when you go to see it, you're either going to align with those characters in the movie, or you're going to see it as a vindication or possibly even a scolding of your own beliefs. So that could hurt the film overall in terms of reception and reviews and Rotten Tomatoes and all that stuff. But that shit excites me as a film fan. I gotta be honest with you, usually the films that I'm most excited to see, and then conversely, after I see it, even if I don't like it, even if I gave it like a 5 out of 10, a lot of times, films that will make me the most excited to like talk about and like revisit are the movies that I'm super split on, and what I was going to say leading up to the release that the public is split on. makes me excited. Like when a film is like a 60 on Rotten Tomatoes, and like the people that are in that 40% that don't like it are like literally loathing it, and that really excites me as a film fan. I really love to see that kind of courageous, out-of-the-box filmmaking, and Ari Aster is the goddamn man when it comes to that. Of course, it's going to be premiering at Cannes in a couple weeks, and I can't wait to see the reception and the overall kind of feeling of what people are saying about it coming out of Cannes. I hope it's positive, but like I said, even if it's not, that's probably going to make me more excited, to be honest with you. All right, guys, that's it. That is my top 10 and then some most anticipated movies that are coming out this summer, 2025. What did I miss? Let me know down below. What's your most anticipated movie of the summer, whether I mentioned it or not? Please let me know in the comments, because I got a watch list. It's really long. If I respect you, maybe I'll bump yours up a little bit in that list. Make sure. Actually, I will do that. Comment down below. I'll do that. And as always, thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you out here next time in the garage.